While the whole world wonders whether Max Verstappen will leave Red Bull, the team has just made 2 moves that say far more than 1,000 official statements. And the second of these moves is a direct slap in the face to Mercedes. Because on the weekend of the Belgian Grand Prix, after months in which people talked only about folks fleeing Milton Keynes, Red Bull has finally flipped the narrative. It has snatched 2 key men, one from a rival and one right from the team currently leading the championship. And the message sent to the paddock is crystal clear. We are not dead at all. Let's start with the first blow, the more personal one for Verstappen. His name is Tom Hart, and he's a man the champion knows extremely well, because for years he was his performance engineer. Before taking on an expanded role across both cars this year, Hart was practically packed and ready to go, bound for Williams to become Alexander Albon's race engineer. Well, Red Bull convinced him to turn back. And the reason is huge. Gianpiero Lambiase, the historic voice on Verstappen's radio, is on his way to McLaren, and someone will be needed to take his place in 2027. Now listen carefully to this detail because it's delicious. A few months ago, the champion had revealed that he already had a man in mind inside the team as Lambiase's successor. He hadn't given names. Everything suggests he was talking about Hart himself. In practice, Red Bull fulfilled an unspoken wish of its driver. Write right away in the comments whether you think these moves will be enough to convince Verstappen to stay, and subscribe to the channel, because in a moment I'll also take you inside the war exploding within Mercedes. Let's move on. Because the second blow is even more sensational, and this time the victim is Mercedes itself. Red Bull has announced the arrival of Gwen Legrue, one of the most respected talent scouts in the entire paddock. The Frenchman spent the last decade inside the Silver Arrows, and pay attention to who he discovered and brought into the team. George Russell. And, above all, Kimi Antonelli. You heard right. The man who got his hands on Mercedes' future world champion will go on to lead Red Bull's young driver program. After Belgium, Toto Wolff admitted that his team is still discussing Legrue's future, which is why there isn't yet an official start date. Mercedes downplays it, reminding everyone that it has about 10 talent scouts at work. But losing that particular man right now stings quite a bit. If this story is grabbing you, drop a like right now, because the picture gets even more interesting, because Legrue's arrival also serves to fill a gigantic void. The one left by Helmut Marko, the man who for 25 years ran the young driver program, discovering Sebastian Vettel and Verstappen himself, and who retired at the end of last year. It was Marko himself who pushed for the promotion of Isack Hadjar and for the arrival of Arvid Lindblad, 2 choices that in 2026 have proven spot on. And meanwhile, the next gem is already lined up. His name is Nikola Solov, and at Spa the head of Racing Bulls called him, in no uncertain terms, next on the list. Behind all of this lies the philosophy of Laurent Mekies, explained by him in crystal clear words. Plan A is always to promote from within, because the team is proud of the talents it has developed. But if a specific skill is needed, then it moves to Plan B and goes to get it from competitors, without any embarrassment. And that's exactly what happened. Hart is an internal promotion. Legrue is a market signing. Mekies had even hinted at all of it in Austria, saying that many of the names rumored to be leaving were actually still in the garage, that some had never wanted to leave and others had changed their minds. No one in the room understood he was talking about Hart. But will all this be enough? Red Bull has lost extremely heavy pieces in recent years, from Adrian Newey to Rob Marshall, from Jonathan Wheatley all the way to Lambiase. And many of those familiar faces are now found right at McLaren. Mekies, however, says he is extremely confident, claiming to have talent at every level and not wanting to look for excuses to justify a lack of competitiveness. The truth is that it all comes down to a single question. Which group of people does Verstappen truly trust for the years ahead? And there's a detail that makes you think. If the champion should leave anyway, Hart will become a race engineer all the same. He'll simply work with another driver. And while Red Bull is desperately trying to rebuild its champion's trust, on the other side of the paddock, a completely different war is breaking out. Because George Russell has finally lost his patience and decided to respond to those who claim Mercedes is favoring Kimi Antonelli. His response was harsh. He called those accusations simply absurd. But to understand Russell's anger, you have to go back to those terrible minutes in Belgium. After being left without battery power on the straight, after being devoured by his rivals and after the contact with Lewis Hamilton that destroyed his race at Turn 5, the Briton unleashed a radio outburst full of swear words, screaming at the team that the whole thing was unacceptable. And it was precisely that outburst, paradoxically, that fueled the rumors of a driver at war with his own team. Mercedes, however, openly defended him, arguing that he had every right to vent his emotions after such a hard blow to his title hopes. Now, turn on notification bells, because the detail coming up completely changes the perspective. Because according to specialized press reports, in that chaos of the first lap, Antonelli had also suffered exactly the same battery problem. The difference is that the young driver found himself in Max Verstappen's slipstream, took advantage of it, and retook the lead of the race. Same trouble, opposite fates. One ended up in the gravel with his race destroyed. The other exploited the tow in front of him and went on to win. Sometimes the difference between disaster and triumph is simply the position you're in when the problem hits. And now come Russell's words, which catch everyone off guard. Asked about the favoritism accusations by the German magazine Sport Bild, the Briton dismantled it all without hesitation. He said he finds those rumors absurd and stated clearly that Kimi is not being favored at all. Then he fired a venomous jab at the world of media, arguing that the press always looks for the best story to maximize clicks, and that if they told the truth, they would struggle a lot to reach their goals. Then Russell put the final seal on the matter, declaring that Toto Wolff has no favorite driver. And he added that he doesn't even follow Formula One news because he already knows the truth and knows perfectly well how much he's valued within the team. The message is clear. You write whatever you want. I know how things stand inside my garage. And here's where the contradiction arises that has half the paddock talking. Because this is the same driver who a few weeks ago had publicly asked to have the same car as his teammate. He's the same man who screamed on the radio that the situation was unacceptable. And now, instead, he assures everyone that he's fully valued and that no one is being favored. How do these two versions fit together? There are only two possible readings. The first, Russell draws a sharp line between a real technical problem, which does exist, and deliberate favoritism from the team, which he firmly denies. The second, far more political. He realized that fueling that narrative was hurting him in the eyes of management, and he decided to put out the fire before it became uncontrollable. But it doesn't end here, because Russell closed the loop by also addressing the other big storyline of the season. The one that would want Verstappen at Mercedes in 2027, right in his seat. The Briton has lived with this narrative for over 12 months, and this time he was blunt. He declared that in 2027 he will drive for Mercedes. Period. He added that here too many people believe they know the truth, when in reality very few actually do. And then the line that closes every discussion. He reminded everyone that he has a contract for next year and that this settles the matter. Now it's your turn to speak. And the question is a poisoned one. Do you think George Russell is sincerely telling the truth when he claims there is no favoritism at all inside Mercedes? Or is he simply playing shrewd politics to protect his own seat on a team that now revolves around Antonelli? Write in the comments a single word. Sincere, if you believe his words. Or political, if you think he's just saving his own position. We'll read every single comment, one by one. And if you don't want to miss the next chapter of these two parallel wars, subscribe to the channel right now because we'll tell you everything before anyone else. See you in the next video.